Susie end up with all those hours?
Okay, hang on.
It's called Paraki. It's not Paraki. It's a peasant.
Oh, I just
Yeah.
wanted one.
I think there was one in
We
the
buy
bottom
those
here.
in a
I
barrel.
tried to put
We buy a barrel of smokes like this.
I smell,
cinnamon.
yeah, clove. Silliman, hi. Hi.
Okay, you hams, those of you who are hams.
Ham?
I'm a ham.
No, we're having pasticha. No ham. No ham.
A3GLY. I'm a ham.
Oh, you're videoing.
Yeah.
Ow.
So is that all the pasticha?
That's all you get. No, hang on, Michael. Isn't that delicious?
You're not supposed to say that.
Well, I mean, I didn't invent it.
Right out.
No, we had the stuff in the microwave that hasn't even started. I mean,
Oh, you haven't got that out?
No, I haven't done it.
Yeah,
Sure, Sue.
do a cannonball.
That'd be a good one. Yeah, do a cannonball, Susie.
No, Kathy, it's a little dark though to be.
No, it's a,
No.
It's your face. Yeah, see,
that'll do it.
you're-
That'll do it.
No, this camera has.
I don't think you can take pictures. It's all dark over there.
Looking at the girls in white clothes.
Hey, tomorrow morning I'll make cinnamon toast. How's that? Or I could even make whatchamacallit?
Yeah, I one of those.
There we go.
I can even make French toast. French toast.
Hey, Susie.
How long has it been since you've had French toast?
Make it,
We have lots of eggs. We have a whole thing of
make
bread
Italian toast.
How about syrup, though? You have syrup.
with oregano.
I can make syrup. Syrup's no problem.
Yeah, syrup's no problem. They have like 10 gallons of syrup in there. But yeah, I thought you had some.
Bart's out, so you gotta be
Oh, okay.
He's
Be
out
careful.
where? Where's he out?
He's out of
out of
the
the
front.
stage.
Oh,
Poor
it's-
thing, he must have been dying in there.
Really.
Yeah, I think he was roasting, poor thing.
Ooh, roast cat. Tomorrow night's dinner.
Yum.
Ready? Medicine for mom.
This is mom's medicine.
You have to stop laughing. Oh dear.
You want some more?
There's
Cheers.
Susie.
Dispensing medicine. I'm
Yeah,
Nurse
this is
Susie.
Nurse Susie, right?
See how I'm not reacting?
That's great. No,
I'm done.
we're gonna get you to record on tape, okay? And we'll give you a copy of it.
You're not being fair.
Oh, she's recording. Okay.
Come on, you're on
Okay.
camera.
So you're on Quadulon. What happened?
Well, come on.
Oh, geez. Susie, you're good.
Come on.
Yeah? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, come on. So we're in Quadulon. And then,
We had
yeah.
tents. We lived in tents. We
Okay.
set up, first night we set up tents. And the Japs came in and bombed us. The first night we could look up at about 75 feet and see these bombers going on, see the tail gunners and the jet bombers, you know, so forth. And they bombed us naturally, and about 20 feet away, a bomb fell and cut a guy's leg off. And we were lucky we didn't all get. But when the bomb, when it goes off, there's so much dirt and dust in the air.
Right in your face.
But you think you're going to suffocate. You
Yeah.
think you can't breathe.
Wasn't that the pressure, the pressure?
Concussion. It was a concussion.
I don't know, but I couldn't. You can't breathe when that thing goes off. It's a suffocating experience with dust and all. But anyway,
So were you traumatized when you saw somebody's leg get blown off?
no, I'm sorry that I'm not that kind of a person, you know.
What?
Well,
You just went on and
you went on and did my
survived.
job.
Yeah.
It was just tough luck for the other guy.
No.
I'm not
It's
the
motor.
kind that
Had
goes
you seen
into a...
anything like that before, where you would be able
I
to do
haven't
that?
seen any of that nature, but it hasn't bothered me.
More instinct, probably.
And,
So you didn't have any of those nightmares that vets, Vietnam vets had? When
no, I didn't.
Yeah, well, not everybody did,
Yeah.
obviously.
No. But we had burial detail for the Japanese on Funafuti. And, you know, their bodies would be puffed up and all, but you had to bury them because it wasn't sanitary for our troops to be in the same area with all these decaying bodies. And I can remember lifting an arm while I was kind of looking for, not relics,
Teeth.
but
Souvenirs.
souvenirs. And
Oh, the real truth comes out. Rings and, yeah.
the skin burst right here under, and.
It's like a chicken, like looks like
Yeah.
a chicken leg.
Yeah.
And it separates.
Yeah, when you cook it,
But,
yeah.
Ugh.
anyway, I guess I'm hard-hearted.
No,
But-
No, you're not.
It's you had to live, you had to live through it.
More realistic, it wasn't
It
very
was
emotional.
probably operating under some kind of, you know, you didn't
Stress.
really stress, you know, you
Adrenaline rush.
really realized you were
Adrenaline
doing
rush.
that. It was your first
All I know
experience.
is I wouldn't walk over, we had a dump where we put all the canned goods and everything in. And one night, about 2 nights after we were on Eniwetok, we had a raid, and of course I ran down to the beach to get onto a LST.
LSTs, yeah.
Landing barge.
Landing barge
Yeah.
to go out into the water because they were bombing the land, of course. But I ran over this dump in my bare feet. I
You
was
didn't cut your.
and cut my feet, but I didn't even feel it. You know.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't until the next day. I didn't even feel that
Never saw
anything had
it
happened because
when I saw that.
when, you'd be surprised how you when you're something
You're not
happens.
thinking.
Yeah,
You're operating under instinct and
well,
everything else.
yeah. Anyway,
And adrenaline.
I ran across this dump in my bare feet because I didn't have time to put on my shoes. But anyway, things like that happen. Anywho,
More.
no, come on.
More, Dad, come on. But you never talk about it.
Actually,
I know it's
actually, when
very
you're flying.
interesting.
How about the time when you're strafing the
Yeah, I want to hear
nest?
about the flying.
How about when you were strafing the nest and you ran into the palm tree?
Oh,
When you almost didn't
no.
make it out of your diet?
I don't remember you running into a plum tree.
We made a raid on Truck Island, or actually it was
Truck.
not before
T-R-U-K.
Truck. It was in the Truck Lagoon, but what was the name?
Marshall.
Yeah.
Where were you operating out of?
Well, we were in the Marshalls. Anyway, when we went down there, I was supposed to be high cover, which means I'm supposed to be up above the bombers, protecting them from any planes from Japanese planes.
What are you flying?
I was flying Corsair.
Yay, Corsairs!
Corsair.
Grumman?
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I was up there and flying about 5,000 feet above the bombers. And there were no Jap planes, so I went down with the bombers in the raid on the runway.
You're the squadron leader.
Yeah, well, no, I was a group. I had my, what do they call it? Anyway, I had 3 planes with me. I was leading the
Flight leader.
Flight leader.
Anyway,
Squadron commander, whatever.
these bombers were making their runs, and the gun emplacements were firing at them. So I left my position above and went diving down and fired on these machine gun nests. And I was flying right next to the bombers. The guy, look over and see the guys, you know. And then I was flying right into the machine gun nest, pull up and into the next, and pull up and into the next. And when I got back, my commanding officer of the group started giving me hell about leaving my post
Yeah.
of high cover. He was gonna, it was 2 days before he got a letter from the bombing group, which is about this pilot that made these runs and they had my number and they saw what number the plane. So he changed, he couldn't complain about me because I really, we're flying right into the machine gun fire, you know, and that's what, so they all came back happy, without having lost any people. We lost one man. But anyway, he wrote such a glowing commendation of what we did for them that my commanding officer
He couldn't say anything
couldn't
bad
say
about
anything
you.
bad about it. Although he did have me in and personally he told me that I should never leave my post.
Did you get a citation though? I mean,
No, he didn't cite me, he didn't do anything.
didn't get a citation.
Oh, I got a,
Commendation.
yeah, I got a,
Silver Star?
Mine cross.
oh,
Dead.
A ribbon.
Airman's medal.
well, yeah, but yeah, I got
Extra
a medal.
point, extra
Bronze?
point.
Bronze medal?
Some kind of good thing.
He
Yeah,
got a good thing.
oh, me.
Oh, me.
Anyway, I got a nice letter and a ribbon and so forth for my work. But but what if we can't use our head? I thought, well, there's no sense in me staying up here.
It's because of men like you that extraordinary
That's why we won the war.
circumstances are made in the war.
Yeah, well,
That's why
anyway.
You know, if you have everyone that obeys everything to the letter and goes by the book, you know, you're not gonna,
No, Susie.
I was wrong.
No, Susie, no.
I was wrong
No.
as far as my commanding officer
Susie,
and
you're wrong there.
when you're having an assignment, that's what you do. You don't do anything else.
I know, but every once in a while,
No.
you have, don't,
No, you
Now
don't.
the chain of
why
command
do you
breaks
say
down.
that? Every once in a while, someone has to do something extraordinary to make a change in the course of things.
That's when the chain of command breaks down.
I was,
Well, I
Susie,
know, I'm not saying
Susie,
everyone
Susie,
has to go
Susie,
haywire.
No, that's,
Well, you don't know.
your father's right.
Flight
It was a no-no. It was a no-no.
That and it would have been all over.
Yeah,
They could have
but,
been
Susie,
Well.
it's a no-no. Trust me.
yeah, you know, I was wrong in what I did. That's true. But I did what I thought at the time was the
It's the
thing
right
to
thing
do.
to do.
And it turned out to be the right
Right thing.
thing.
Right.
But, you know,
It still went against
it's never gonna be
military.
that
At
way
the
the next
time, yeah, you never know until
Yeah,
after the fact.
Actually,
Whether it was the right or wrong thing.
It's a matter of
And where
50-50.
was this?
Anyway, the nice write-up by the squadron commander, the Army was doing the bombing, and Marines were doing the close air support.
Coast Guard support.
Yeah,
So where was this?
this was in truck.
Truck.
Since you act like this is being filmed and you're the
But-
narrator.
It is.
It
Anyway,
is being filmed.
those are the things that happened. I was not
Talks to.
called out, I was told what I had done was wrong,
But it was overlooked because it
but
was
it's been
okay.
overlooked because of the effect.
Yeah.
Well, this sounds like a Fitzpatrick.
Circulation problem here.
Well, did you, okay, what about,
Anyway,
were you in Midway?
Yes,
Yeah.
I was in Midway when
It's 60
when the
minutes.
big fight came, but I went to Midway almost immediately
Should
after.
be good enough for 60 minutes.
Hey, Kathy, over
What?
here,
Harrison, Midway.
What?
over this way.
Okay, I've got Dad. Don't worry.
She doesn't like
Hey,
to
Bob,
hear
tell them about the
Because I
time
was thinking, I thought Midway was.
Shut up, Susie. Tell them about the time that you were, you were
Yeah,
strafing the.
She was bombing what? What were you bombing,
Almost hit
Susie?
the palm tree because you were so
Oh,
upset.
no, so I made a lot of dumb, I did a lot of dumb things. I don't know how I ever
Made
really
that.
made it
Survive.
through. We were on a, yeah, that's right.
Well, you're young.
It's crazy. Yeah, I was 24 years
Yeah,
old.
of course you were. You
Who's a kid?
Nothing can happen to a 24-year-old.
Oh,
I
you
mean,
know, a
you're
lot of
young.
us were killed. We had 45 pilots when we left the States.
Yeah.
And of those original 45, only 6 or 7 were alive when we came back.
And then you were.
We had replacements come in.
Oh,
But
geez.
of the 45,
The original
the
45.
original 45, only 6
And you were one of
pilots
them.
survived, and I just happened to be one of them.
Jesus.
Mm.
That is scary.
That's scary.
Yeah.
Do you realize you wouldn't be
What
born
was-
today? It was
What was
you guys
the,
wouldn't be around.
Excuse
Really?
me?
I probably would have been,
Excuse
but
me.
Susie wouldn't have been.
Shut up. What was the cause of their demise, those other?
Well, we lost two.
Oh, they got lost
from
in battle.
we had the Corsair had folding wings, and there was a red flag that was up when the wings were not locked. They go down and locked. Because the reason why the folding wings, it was built and flying from the carriers.
Yeah.
But anyway, we lost two people to not having the wings properly locked, and they just got off and the wings folded on them,
Oh,
and they were killed.
Who watched the wings? Were they automatic?
Well,
is the pilot
the
responsible?
pilot's responsible, but he's in the pilot. They go down, and this little red flag sinks into the wing.
I see.
It didn't go into on one of them. It didn't go to the wings. So the mechanic stepped on him and pushed him down.
Oh,
And the guy took off, and they got about 50 feet, and the wings folded and killed him. But we had two of those, and one guy went out one morning after drinking all night, and he landed. We were on Tarara. We were on. Well, we
look
were
at
on
him.
Tarara.
He remembers
for a
all
while.
this stuff.
I had a burial detail in Tarara, but on, let's see,
Watching the history.
Kwajalein and Eniwetok.
Getting it all.
We were on Eniwetok, and the bombers were on Kwajalein,
Yeah, I
which
wish.
was one big
Atoll.
atoll,
Yeah.
but the part above water was not all that great, but there was those two were in the same atoll. Anyway, he took off and something went wrong with his plane, or he thought he was not really
With it.
with it. He landed, he hit one of bombers, a great big, and killed about 3 or 4 guys and killed himself. And there were a number of reasons for their death. Of course, we had the group that went out in a typhoon. That may still come out in the picture. I don't want them to show it, and some of the senior officers don't want it shown, but the junior officers who participated that survived want it shown. But anyway, we had to fly from Tarare to Funafuti, and there was a typhoon going on, and General Merritt, what's his name? No, our commanding officer talked to Merritt. General Merritt said, "We shouldn't be going here. We have
He
no
told us the story the other day.
we have no planes. We have a Dumbo.
Dumbo, yeah,
We follow a Dumbo. In other words,
a radio plane.
it's a big plane with a lot of electronic gear, and it takes you from. You can let them do all the computing for your
You just
headings
follow
and
them.
times and all. Anyway, they can't fly in that kind of weather. So General Merritt said, "Well, send them anyway. They're Marines, aren't they?" So they had 24 planes go out into this tornado. Well, anyway,
Jeez.
of those, only 6 pilots. Maybe there were 10. Anyway, of the 24, 10 of them, I believe, didn't make it, but they landed in the water and stayed together. And they were later, when the storm subsided, a Dumbo came in and picked them up. But we lost all our planes.
Were you in that tent?
And we flipped a coin. There were 2 pilots to each plane because they wanted to keep the planes in the air as much as they could. So we would trade off. If one worked 4 hours, well then we would go up for 4 hours and come back down while the other rest. Anyway, we flew what's known as CAP, Combat Patrol.
CAP, Combat Air Patrol.
Alert,
Combat Air
Patrol.
Patrol,
Alert,
yeah.
alert.
Anyway, of all the pilots that left the States, and well, even worse, all the pilots that went through training with me in the Marine Corps were all killed at Guadalcanal. I was not killed because I was selected to instruct new students coming in.
Thank God.
So I went to Cherry Point and stayed
I
there.
remember Cherry Point,
I
yeah.
stayed
Yeah,
there
North
a year and
Carolina.
a half,
Yeah.
training new pilots. But all of those that went to Guadalcanal were killed.
I've been reading more books recently, Guadalcanal, and it's
Susie?
amazing.
This
We
must all
just
be
watched
real
the
interesting to
History
you.
Channel.
I know,
Huh?
I know.
You're the
It's
one that
just,
watches the History Channel.
Terrible.
I love this.
Isn't this interesting to you?
Oh,
He's like a first-hand,
I know. I love
right
it.
in there.
I love it.
Anyway,
More.
Yeah,
We
well,
want more.
I
No, Dad!
there's the guns that come right up. They
I know, say that
come right
again,
into your face.
when the bullets,
Yeah,
right
when
by.
they come and they go by, if they hit you,
You're
you know,
dead.
you're
dead.
gone.
Yeah.
But it's really weird. You can see them coming right up, and then all of a sudden they just.
Tracers?
Tracers, yeah.
Scary.
Every third bullet is,
Tracer.
they have an armor piercing, and a tracer, and a lead bullet. There's
Oh.
three of them.
Three different ones?
Three different ones. Every third one
Oh, jeez.
is a tracer. And but you're only seeing every third one when it comes up at you.
That is scary.
But when you're making that run on the thing, when you can see them coming right up, just like your
That
nose.
sounds awful.
They just kind of miss you if they miss.
You are so lucky, Dad.
Yeah,
I can't believe he's alive, you know.
Exactly. You
When
shouldn't
you think about
Yeah.
the odds he's been up against, and he just
Well,
always
What was
survived it.
The last
What do you think
battle, or
about
the
his-
last fight
his,
you were in.
his,
Well, we were on Guam,
Yeah.
and we were going up toward Japan. We went up to Guam, and then,
And we talked,
no.
I know the names of all these weird islands.
Midway?
No, I
Tin-
can't.
tin-
Boy, I haven't said it in so long.
Somewhere in Micronesia.
Well, just before you get to Japan, I was right
Oh,
up.
that would be,
Come on.
oh, jeez.
Come on, Michael.
I went diving there. Okinawa?
Okinawa, that's not so hard to
We're getting a
remember.
bunch of noises from you. Okay.
Well, Okinawa.
Yeah, Okinawa was it, because
Susie, I was scuba diving there.
Okay.
Well, our last raids were on Okinawa that I participated in.
There's the
Yeah.
There
closest,
were raids afterwards by
Yeah,
other.
yeah. Well, that's what I want to know about you.
closest to the mainland
I know, I want to know
of
about you.
Japan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the last raids that I was in was Okinawa. And they didn't have much in the way of aircraft to fight us. So we went up and mainly dropped bombs on their runway so they wouldn't bring planes up to fight.
Because
To
land,
encounter.
yeah.
Oh,
And
this
actually the latter
is gonna be great.
6 months of the
It's
war,
a history, child.
when I was
Yeah,
involved
so
in
glad.
Guam,
Your
I
father's
was
a real
diving
hero,
and
you know that.
Did you ever scuba dive or just
I
snorkel?
know.
snorkeling,
Yeah.
mainly.
Oh, is that where you got all the big shells and stuff?
I got the big shells on Kwajalein,
Yeah.
Kwajalein.
There's some
Wow.
beautiful shells, some beautiful big,
Wow.
Oh, they had these clams that were just
I know.
huge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The giant
Huge
clams, the
But
giant
you brought
clams.
back some beautiful tritons and things,
Yeah.
I think.
Cowries and
I
stuff?
I
Yeah,
spent all my
beautiful
time,
cowries, yeah.
my spare time, I spent in the water.
Really?
That's a
Did
good
you do
place.
any scuba diving at all?
That's what
Well,
he's talking about.
yeah, I was.
No, he
says he spent all his spare time in the
I
water.
didn't have a scuba gear.
You didn't go down?
We had no way out there to
Well,
fill
of
the
course, at
tank.
that time, they didn't really have it, because
It was
John...
new, it was very new.
No, it wasn't new. He hadn't been invented yet. Jean Cousteau,
Jacques
Cousteau.
Cousteau.
Jacques
Us
Cousteau
too.
did not invent it until
Yeah.
after
Aqualung.
World War II.
Yeah.
And then he had very primitive equipment.
Most of it was just,
The frogmen had it, but it was, again, very primitive
that's
equipment.
right. Mhm.
It was nothing like we have today.
But I've seen sharks while I was out
I
there.
bet.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't attack me, but I always,
Then again, you were lucky one more time,
I
Dad.
saw a lot of beautiful shells, which I brought home a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of them.
yeah, we did bring
Yeah.
a lot
I
of
don't
nice
know where
shells.
they are, but,
Well, you know, there's some.
In a box somewhere.
yeah, in the box.
In a box and one of the
Probably in a
containers.
container. Container box.
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, I was just lucky.
You were
But I
lucky.
guess everybody that returns was just
Was
like
lucky.
Because,
Everybody
no,
that
that's true.
returned was
Yeah,
lucky.
so
very
many
true.
were killed, you just can't believe.
It's amazing.
Anyway.
That was,
I know what dumb
We are
things
very
I
glad.
think.
We are very glad that you were lucky.
Yeah.
We
you know,
wouldn't be here if
Yeah,
you
that's
weren't
true.
lucky.
I'm ready for my,
Crazy. Well, the one thing, our squadron, like I say, General Merritt sent us out into the typhoon, and we lost all of our men, all but 6.
Yeah.
and he was one of the 6, jeez.
And then, well, when I got back to the States, I guess I was given a squadron of twin-engine night fighters, although I didn't qualify as a night fighter.
But you were a survivor, so
I
yeah.
asked for
Survivor.
the twin-engine plane. I wanted, beautiful, I love flying it. So we flew that out of Cherry Point. And we had one guy get lost and land in a cornfield, and we paid the farmer $750 for a row of, well,
A row
about
of
eight
corn.
rows of
To
corn.
be allowed to land?
Yeah, it was crazy to me. And I have the plane, a plane to it. Anyway, we hired a roller, and we rolled down the 7 rows of corn, and then we turned around and took the plane with a Grumman F7F.
I'm gonna look to
And
listen
roast
to this
corn
again.
that
And we took off from there and flew back to, so that was quite an experience. But I spent most of my latter days at Cherry Point, flying and doing
Well, what about, so Pensacola is mainly just training?
Pensacola.
Oh,
No,
you know
that
what?
saved my life.
You've gotta
Pensacola.
look at this. She's gotta read this document
And,
that you
and
gave me.
when I graduated, all the Marines, with the exception of me, were sent to Guadalcanal. They were all killed.
Jeez.
I was sent to Cherry Point
Oh, my
to be
God.
an instructor.
Oh, my God.
And so I spent a year and a half instructing at Cherry
I
Point.
came this close to not being
Oh,
here.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Oh, that'd be my wife! Oh, dear me!
Yeah, talk to your mom.
I'd still be married to that
Anyway.
fish!
Yeah, I stayed a year and a half in Pensacola
I didn't
instructing
know that.
flying. Oh,
Yeah, now you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why they
You're lucky
selected
you
me,
were born.
but they selected me as a trainer.
So
So,
you're a very
Because
lucky
you're
to be born.
intelligent.
oh no.
You are intelligent. You're
I'm just lucky. I'm just lucky.
No, but you're inquisitive. Look at all the things you invented. The washing machine,
Yeah,
the
he's-
lawnmower.
He is. He doesn't know it, but he's very, very, very sharp.
You made a
Very
washing
sharp.
machine out of a
Come
lawnmower.
on, you
and what
guys
else?
are,
Does that mean
Come on,
extra?
more,
I suppose.
no, more.
The barbed wire hanging off your wings and
well, that's when I was an instructor at Cherry Point. Not Cherry Point. Oh,
it was up in Oxnard.
no.
Awesome.
Well, that was another deal.
Oh, something else.
Not Cherry Point. What in the world?
So
Where?
you confused
Corpus
me.
Christi?
What?
Oh, Pensacola, Dad.
Corpus Christi.
That's Texas.
Pensacola.
Texas.
Pensacola.
Pensacola's Florida.
I
Corpus
trained-
Christi's Texas.
Well, I trained in Texas, but I instructed in
Yeah, I know
Pensacola.
that. I know that by your
Yeah,
your.
well, we used to, at night, we had a lot of night flying. We would go out and we'd fly around, and the moon would light up the trees, and then there was just a field beyond, and we used to go in and make landings at night, or just get over the trees and land, and then turn around, come back, and then take off again. Crazy. I mean, we weren't supposed to, but we did things that were idiotic, But that's the way kids are when they're 20.
You were a kid, weren't you?
Wait, wait,
You were a kid.
Do this, or just do this 'cause it's
No,
fun?
But you had a wife, so you shouldn't have.
Didn't you say some guy came back with barbed wire hanging off his wings?
Yeah, that was when we were in Santa Barbara.
Yeah.
Santa Barbara. You were in Santa Barbara.
Well, I was in Santa Barbara for 6 months training for when we were going overseas. And we used to go out and play around with, by then, those you could fly around at 10 feet and no one would say anything. But nowadays,
Fly
you
around at 10
can't fly, you can't fly around under
No, you can't fly around 10 feet these days.
And sometimes on the beach, they go below the ceiling.
Yeah, well, anyway, we had a guy come back one day with barbed wire on his wings.
Oh,
That's
Oh,
how
you're
low
kidding.
he was. That's
that
an
is
absolute
low.
fact.
That is
That's
low.
a fact. That is low.
That's
That is low.
That's right.
Oh, geez.
But we were crazy. Kids were crazy.
Yeah.
Just like kids used to race me. The guy that had the wire, well, I can see him, but I can't say his name now.
Barbed wire. geez.
Well, that reminds me
Barbed
when
wire
you
in his wings.
That
Barbed
is
wire
so-
when you talked about
That is so
hitting
low.
birds. You talked about hitting birds over
Oh,
swamps.
well, yeah, I nearly got court-martialed. Well, we used to chase birds. You know, and they're hard,
Yeah,
and
you
they're hard
said
to
it.
get.
Plane?
In the plane.
Oh,
This
jeez.
was in a
Oh, you gotta read that thing,
N2S,
Susie.
the Navy training
Wonderful.
plane, a biplane.
Yeah, a biplane.
Yeah, biplane. It was a slow airplane,
Yeah.
but it was for
Yeah, we know
training.
what a biplane is.
It was just for training only. It wasn't supposed to be fast.
Yeah.
Anyway, I used to chase the birds around. One day I hit one of them, and it made a dent in the front wing. It tore the wing back about 2 feet from the front. Just tore everything. Boy, and I got into all kinds of trouble about that.
I could imagine.
I was in Cherry Point for
You should have said
About a year and a
biplane
half.
commit suicide.
when training. Went through instrument training and taught flying. I had a lot of Canadian, but that time they were sending Canadian people down to learn to fly. And I can remember taking them up and move me on and go inverted and do an inverted spin.
Oh, my
Well,
gosh.
the student, you know, I just look back and laugh at him and look at him up there and here. Oh, he was dying.
I know, of course.
Because you're just, only thing that's hanging you in the airplane is the belt.
I know.
You know, oh, man.
Yeah, and the first time you did it, you about threw up.
Colin.
Because I read that in your
Yeah.
accounting.
Well,
You said,
college.
I can't imagine why anybody would want to be doing
Do
this.
you remember
You
when we
said.
went up in the glider and we went straight up?
Well,
And
back the glider is nothing.
Well,
I
and then-
screamed, but it's like being on a roller
no, see,
coaster.
and then when it dropped, because it got up to a ceiling where it just dropped, and you were screaming like hell. I had such a great time.
Oh, that's
Oh,
great, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Free fall.
The scarier it is, the better I love it.
I did too.
That's right. That's exactly right.
It was.
Anyway.
And I took her up in a glider, and we did all sorts of. The guy said, "Would you like to do something exciting?" I said, "Absolutely." And so he said, "Well, I'll take you up, and we'll stall, and then just come straight down." Yeah. Oh, it was great.
Anyway, John Collins, one of our
Yeah, I
friends.
remember that name.
Remember that name?
Yeah. Well,
That's the one that gave Mom the drink, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
What kind of drink
He was
it?
trying.
a John Collins drink.
He went up and did a
Collins.
inverted
Tom
spin,
Collins.
and the guy that he had forgot to fasten his safety belt, and he fell
Oh
out.
my
So,
God!
Yeah,
an open cockpit?
yeah,
He fell out?
yeah. Well, you know, an N2S.
Yeah, I know, I know.
The yellow.
Oh,
they call it
geez.
the yellow barrel.
Oh.
It's hard to
Well,
believe.
fortunately,
Hold that
they
steady,
had
Kevin.
Parachute?
his parachute
It's all
open.
recorded.
Yeah, we always took a parachute. But imagine, you look up, you know, there's a mirror. There's a mirror on the upper wing, and you can sit there and watch your student and see what he's doing.
And he's falling.
Yeah. Funny thing to them. Of course, a lot of sad things. We had guys fall asleep flying instruments, you know, and crash. We lost 2 or 3 instructors that way. Anyway.
Well,
we
according
had-
to the thing that you, according to your training, you lost people every day.
Yeah, they made.
Every day
Oh, yeah,
you
when you're
had people
training
crash.
as many pilots as they
Yeah.
were training, it's nothing to lose a pilot in a day.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's-
it's just one of those
Can
things.
we help?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, in those days it was different.
Percentage, you know?
Yeah, today,
anyway, I really had some great experiences, and I was lucky as
You're
could
very
be.
lucky.
Very lucky,
Jeez.
because all my friends were killed.
Yeah.
On TV, but when I know that you have gone through all this, it's just, you know, my eyes are like, have toothpicks on them. I have to find out about it all.
Those news,
It's fascinating.
clippings at your, retirement party, oh.
Yeah.
never saw
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Clippings are great.
I
Where do the
never
news
been-
clippings going at your
I don't know.
He's some awesome character, this
I
dad
have
was.
never been
Well, he's
as
definitely-
lucky as can be. Lucky.
Okay.
Lucky.
Lucky, lucky, lucky.
That's the only reason.
Lucky Williams.
But I tell you, I've never been so impressed by looking at that record. I said, oh, geez, our father
Yeah.
is.
Well, that's going to be in her
He's my
tombstone.
hero.
Lucky Williams.
Well, anyway.
My
It was all, I wouldn't want to do it again.
Who would?
It was really an
Who would?
interesting
Well,
experience.
see, you know, as a kid, you know, nothing can happen.
Yeah, at 24.
Yeah, what do you
don't care.
You're not afraid about anything.
Yeah,
I mean, when I was 24, I was racing cars at 100 miles an hour. I didn't care.
yeah, well, we were
You
making.
gotta read this thing,
I
Dad's, what we call a diary. It wasn't really, but it was when he wrote home about his experience.
So where is it?
I don't know, that's,
You're
you've never gotten a chance to read it, have you, Sue?
No. Yeah, it's a lot of water.
Oh, and when you look at that and say, I might have to land in that, they'll never find me. Anyway, I missed the island, and I turned to the right, thinking that I would find it, and I flew for about 15 minutes, and I listened, and as you get away from the station, the intensity of the fake signal gets lower and lower.
Fades, yeah.
Finally, you can't hear. Finally, I figured out that I was in the wrong, so I came back and found the leg
Yeah.
and flew back to the island. Fortunately, I got there. I said, why didn't you call me? Tell me. It was so we have radio silence, and if you fly off and
Yeah.
get killed,
It could have disappeared and then.
Yeah.
it's crazy.
But they couldn't
Tough
break,
luck,
they couldn't
guys.
break silence.
Yeah, they couldn't break silence.
Yeah.
It didn't. It's stupid.
Yeah.
Anyway, that was one experience that really bothered me because I almost.
They would
lost my group.
rather not have you break silence, lose the
And
people,
Isn't that crazy?
lose the people, than have you
Yeah.
get back safely.
Yeah, you don't know what the Marine Corps is like.
Well, it's not only the Marine Corps. It's this.
Well,
it's
yeah,
this.
I don't think
big-
the Army
You don't
is
think
that
not that
rigid.
bad? Yeah.
The Marine Corps is right or wrong, period.
No, I thought it was always right.
What are you
Well,
doing?
Yeah, but the point being is they don't give you any slack.
He's trying to make the picture more focused on your dad.
Anyway,
What was that?
it was a flight to Woji.
Woji?
Woji.
Is that
Japanese.
Micronesian island?
Well, it's in the,
She isn't in it.
on the Arctic, let's see.
Asking your father.
It's between,
Well,
we flew to Woji from Kwajalein.
Well, Kwajalein I've heard of, but Woji I haven't. It sounds
Well,
very,
no,
very,
Woji was,
very,
well,
very
that's because
Japanese.
it was just occupied by the Japanese.
And Woji-
We never occupied it, we just just bombed the airfield so they couldn't bring supplies in. But man,
But it might have changed the name. But
no, Woji, it still was called Woji, I know. W-O-J-E or something, anyway, Woji. But I nearly lost the group there. But that's the
We're
thing.
glad you made it back.
They don't tell you a thing.
like you said, listen, it
You either do it like they say or forget it. You're not,
And the Marine Corps is one of the most rigid
they're
as
very
far as
rigid.
circumstances.
That's
You
right.
know, either do it or you're court-martialed or
Right.
you're out.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
What about the time you took your squadron, was back in the States here, and you,
Oh,
to avoid the hurricane, you ran out of gas on the end of the runway?
that's when I was flying F9, F8Fs. So F8, 8, 7. twin-engine night fighter
Oh, okay.
built by Grumman.
Oh, okay, okay.
And when we have typhoons that come in along the Atlantic coast, we have to fly all the airplanes to a safe
Sure, it's a
place. So we took off, and I was leading 24 airplanes, which scared me alone. You don't know what I went through. Anyway, we did very well following the airways, but we came to when we got near, what was the name of the state? Where were we supposed to go? We were going to Roanoke, Virginia. Roanoke, Virginia. Okay, when we got near to Roanoke, the signal changed. I don't know if you're a flyer, you know, they have two signals, one like this, and one dit is here, and da 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 is the other side. And the same over here. Well, I flew across the signal, and I figured I was where the airport was. Well, it so happens that there's a mountain just before you get to the airport, which is full of iron ore.
Oh, no!
And it changed the signal. So when I flew past it, I figured I was over the airport. So we started circling the land. And we must have circled for 15 minutes anyway. And I was talking to the other guy, do you see this? Do you see it? No. Finally,
magnetic thing
an airline pilot cut in and told us that the signal changed at a certain point, and to go out on another leg and come in, and an airline pilot cut into our frequency.
Oh, geez,
And
I
told-
believe
yeah,
that.
that's right. We landed, one guy landed, and the airplane coasted to the end of the runway and quit. They were out of gas. Anyway, that's a fact. That's an absolute fact. Anyway, we got all of our airplanes in, and then when the typhoon passed, we flew them back. I got a nice letter of commendation about how, yeah, I did. I got that said how great we had performed
Didn't
and
lose a
saved all,
plane.
didn't lose a plane. And here we almost
Lost the whole
she
squad.
lost the squad. Anyway, that's the way, but that's the way things go. You don't know how it goes in the Marine Corps.
Well, in anything.
Yeah,
You know,
more than
it's-
anything, yeah.
Crazy.
I could have lost the squadron, instead I got a nice letter of commendation. Yeah, for how the whole squadron making it.
How about when you were
Well,
flying
I
jets?
hated leading the squadron.
I get
Can't
that.
imagine.
That's a
And
lot.
how about when
Lot
you
of
were flying jets
responsibility.
and you used to go to sleep?
Oh,
The
well,
wind speed on the wings woke you up?
Oh,
Don't put that on tape.
no, that's fact, though. We did a lot of flying. From Los Alamitos.
Oh.
We
Yeah.
had jets.
Yeah.
And we go up and fly. Well, you take off and you go on oxygen. It's no fun really flying jets because you had to fly at 35,000 feet.
Yeah.
And what fun is it flying at 35,000
Now
feet?
you get there.
It's no fun at all.
Yeah.
Anyway, you go up there and
You should have been flying commercial planes.
But
I could hear the wind, you know, it has a shriek as it goes. You'd be surprised how it shrieks when it goes past the airplane.
makes noise.
You know, it makes a noise, but you can tell. But one day I was up there and tired and flying along, and all of a sudden I heard the shriek go way up. So I knew something was wrong. It woke me up.
You were sleeping.
It woke me up. I was almost in a complete dive.
Oh, shit.
Of course, I was up at 35,000 feet, so I had time to come out of it, but that's how close I came to.
Your aircraft won't fall apart.
That was
Oh,
It's
an F9F is like a rock. You
that
cannot hurt it. All it can do is go down.
was after.
But you'd be surprised how thick the metal is
But that's when.
on the wings and so forth of airplanes.
Was that after the war?
That was after the
Yeah,
war.
after.
And Los Alamos, I was
in the reserve.
Yeah, that was in
commanding
the
officer
eighties,
Los
way after the
Alamos.
war.
Oh, in the 80s?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You were first squadron to get jets too. for the
Yeah,
reserve.
well, I
You're
think,
a
I
lieutenant
think
colonel,
that was
probably.
because we lost all of our groups. I think they were nice to me, but anyway, whether they were or were not, I was the first reserve squadron to receive jets.
Oh, wow.
And they always gave me the last planes that were ready to go, the best. And we were really lucky. I don't know, I never asked, anybody why I was allowed to get jets when everybody in the country
You
wanted
had a good
jets.
reputation.
But
They
as the
liked you.
reserve
They
squadron,
liked
I
you.
was the
No,
first
it's a reputation.
jet commander that had
Wow.
Hey,
Really?
get closer, Susie, so we can get a good shot of that.
Because Mom was introduced to Admiral Byrd
Susie looks
at one of the
fun.
meetings,
This is great.
one of the dances.
Mom,
I-
get Admiral Byrd.
Admiral Byrd. Admiral, I was his personal pilot in Cherry Point. He was an we had a different state with airfields out around Pensacola. And he was in one of those airfields as commanding officer. And my job was to pick him up every day and fly him back in the evening to Cherry Point. And I'd pick him up and fly him out the next day. So that was one of the things I used to do when I was a pilot in Pensacola. And Chris will verify that because she met him and it's kind of people you meet.
No, you meet Admiral Byrd every time. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
No, I used to fly him around.
Huh.
N2S, which is the Navy, they call it Yellow Peril, because they got so many people who were, young pilots were injured or crashed or
Killed.
killed.
Wonderful.
So they called it a Yellow Peril.
Huh?
But anyway, I was his private pilot. We were stationed
You
there.
never told us that.
Yeah, you never told us that till tonight.
Mom will tell you,
I'm
yes.
very impressed.
Well, why was
That's one of the things.
What are your ratings, Bob?
I have multi-engine land and sea.
So you can land seaplanes
I
or
can
whatever.
land seaplanes, I can land, jet. Oh, I don't think I got jet, although I have 500 hours in jets.
In jets?
Yeah, but I've never taken the test, the flying test for jets. But I do have land and sea, regular airplane.
And multi.
And multi-engine land and sea, excuse me, yeah.
Wow.
So what did
Sid.
you fly
Very
multi-engine
impressed.
that wasn't a jet?
A PBY 5A.
Yeah, that's the first one,
Which has two engines up on the wing and a body, almost a boat body in it.
Yeah.
Those are the rescue seaplanes,
Yeah,
good for the guys.
well, the Dumbo, those were Dumbos. They had engine, not quite in the plane they had. Man, don't get old. Anyway, they used to do all the navigating.
Was there an aircraft that looked like a P-51 but it had two
No, P-51 is too fast.
Yeah.
38?
This thing was landed
I
on
know
the
what
water.
you're talking about, but aren't there multi-engine?
Yeah, there's like the Lightning.
There's the Lockheed Lightning, if that's what you mean.
They have the two engines
Yeah.
that look like the
And twin
fuselage and
booms.
the nose of it.
Yeah, P-38.
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 You flew that?
No, I did not fly the P-38, but I flew something which was actually superior as far as I could see. It was Grumman F-7F, which was a twin-engine night fighter. But they had great big propellers. I mean, the biggest propellers I've ever seen in my life. And they used to turn about this fast. But they made the airplane, you could count them going by. But the airplane flew fine, they flew at night. Fortunately, I wasn't required to make any night landings. But I used to just be thinking about those guys that were up there. They would go up and fly when it was raining and you couldn't see anything. And they'd bring them on what's called GCA, ground controlled approach. And they would come around and make landings in the rain
And you couldn't see
and you couldn't see anything.
Jeez.
Oh, just the thought of it scared the hell out of But-
Even now.
But that's what they did. But that's what this airplane, this is a night fighter plane, actually. But there again, I don't know how I was given that plane as my squadron because
This is history.
no one else, everybody wanted it.
This is
It was
history.
the top
Yeah.
plane at the time. They gave it to my squadron. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I survived I keep thinking it's because I survived that debacle when they all landed in the water and we lost all our pilots.
Jeez.
What, is a cockpit like on a fighter aircraft? Is
Uh,
it real close, confined, is it?
No, it's not so bad. Actually, it's not really confined.
As long as you
They
don't
had-
wait.
Well, a lot of instruments, of course. They had a needle, they had a artificial horizon, so you could see where your airplane, what it was doing and where it was, whether it's going up or down. Actually, it makes it
On the flight simulator.
It makes really easy to fly an artificial horizon. It's great. And that's mainly what, in this weather, the thing would fly to come in, but it scared me. I'm glad I never had to make a landing in the rain. But at Cherry Point, you'd be surprised the way they put those, I don't know how the pilots survived myself. Anyway, it was a ticklish situation landing that when you couldn't see a thing. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't.
Oh,
I can't imagine a carrier landing at night.
yeah, oh.
Oh, imagine landing on a carrier.
Well, they usually
Yeah,
have lots of,
you gotta give these guys that are flying nowadays all the credit in the world.
especially when they're flying such
Yeah.
fast
Yeah,
aircraft.
it's,